The name Jezebel has become a curse, a symbol of wickedness and seduction. But behind the legend of the most hated queen in the Bible lies a truth far more complex than any Sunday school lesson. This is not the story of a simple villain. It is the shocking saga of a powerful foreign princess, a devout follower of her own gods, who was thrust into a hostile kingdom and forced to fight a fanatical prophet for the very soul of her people. It's a story of religious war, royal corruption, and a queen who refused to bow down, even in the face of death itself. The conflict between Elijah and the prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel is one of the most epic scenes in all of Scripture. But the fiery showdown and the slaughter that followed were only the beginning. The real story, the true testament to Jezebel's power, came after the victory, with a single, chilling threat she delivered to a victorious prophet. And the defiant nature of her final act reveals a secret about her legacy that few truly understand. This is just the beginning of a saga of power, religious war, and ultimate defiance. If you're ready to dive deep into one of the Bible's most controversial and fascinating figures, make sure you subscribe to our channel and activate the notifications, because you won't want to miss a single part of this shocking story. Our tale begins in a time of spiritual crisis for the nation of Israel. The kingdom had been divided, and the new northern kingdom was led by King Ahab, a ruler described as doing more evil in the eyes of the Lord than any king before him. Ahab's reign was one of political instability and moral drift. The people, having lost their way, began to worship foreign gods, blurring the lines of their faith. Into this turbulent world, a new force arrived. She was not a native Israelite, but a princess from the powerful coastal kingdom of Tyre and Sidon. Her name was Jezebel. Marriage to King Ahab was a political alliance meant to bring peace and prosperity to the two nations. The Jezebel did not come alone. She brought her own culture, her own customs, and most importantly, her own religion. She was a devout, unyielding follower of the god Baal and the goddess Asherah, and she saw no reason to hide it. Her arrival in Israel was not a quiet visit. It was the collision of two completely different worlds, setting the stage for one of the most brutal spiritual battles in history. To understand Jezebel, you must look beyond the legends and see her as a woman of her time and culture. She was born a Phoenician princess, the daughter of a king and high priest of the goddess Astarte. Her devotion to the gods Baal and Asherah was not a fleeting choice. It was ingrained in her very being from birth. Her religion was her identity, her heritage, and her power. When she came to Israel, she found a society that she likely viewed as primitive and spiritually weak. Their God was invisible and had no magnificent temples or grand rituals like hers. She saw no reason to abandon the gods of her ancestors, who had brought her people immense wealth and influence. In her eyes, her mission was not one of evil, but of evangelism. She sought to bring the vibrant, rich culture of her homeland to Israel, and in doing so, she believed she was elevating the kingdom and securing her own legacy. This was a conflict of two opposing worldviews: foreign queen's fierce belief in her own destiny, clashing head-on with the unyielding faith of a small, rebellious prophet. Jezebel was not subtle in her mission. With the full support of her husband, King Ahab, she set about transforming Israel into a land of her gods. She built a temple to Baal in Samaria, the capital city, and erected a sacred pole for Asherah, brought hundreds of prophets of Baal and Asherah from her homeland and housed them at the royal table, feeding them and giving them a place of authority. Her goal was clear: to establish her religion as the dominant faith of the land. But her actions were not limited to proselytizing. She actively and mercilessly persecuted the prophets of the Hebrew God, putting them to the sword to silence their opposition. This was no longer a quiet spiritual drift. It was an open and ruthless religious war. She was a woman of immense power, with a fierce conviction that her gods were the true gods, and she was willing to do whatever it took to ensure their dominion. Over the hearts and minds of the Israelites, the stage had been set, the battle lines drawn, and then a figure from the wilderness emerged to stand against her. It was a lone prophet named Elijah, a man as uncompromising as Jezebel herself. He confronted King Ahab and, in a direct challenge to the authority of Baal, the god of rain, declared, "There will be neither dew nor rain in the next few years, except at my word." This was an act of audacious defiance. Elijah was not just a man, he was a living, breathing challenge to the very foundation of Jezebel's power. The drought began, a direct message from the heavens, transforming the conflict from a religious clash into a desperate life-or-death struggle. As the land withered and the people suffered, Jezebel's gods proved to be powerless. This was a divine showdown, a battle between a powerful queen and a solitary prophet, with the soul of a nation hanging in the balance. The stage was set for the ultimate confrontation between two unwavering wills. In a world of compromise, do you believe there is a place for an uncompromising faith, even a fanatical one? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, because this is where the confrontation truly begins. Drought Elijah, who had been in hiding, returned to confront the king. He issued a challenge to the entire nation and all the prophets of Baal and Asherah. "How long will you waver between two opinions?" he cried. "If the Lord is God, follow him. But if Baal is God, follow him." He summoned them all to Mount Carmel, a stage set by God himself for the final showdown. The people, desperate for an answer, gathered to watch. The prophets of Baal, 450 of them, faced off against Elijah, the lone prophet of the Lord. The terms of the contest were simple. Each side would prepare a bull for sacrifice, but no fire. Whichever god answered with fire from heaven would be declared the true God. The moment was ripe with anticipation. The nation held its breath. The confrontation on Mount Carmel was not just a spiritual event. It was a psychological spectacle. From morning until noon, the prophets of Baal cried out to their God. They danced and shouted, but there was no response. Elijah began to mock them, shout louder. "Surely he is a god. Perhaps he is deep in thought, or busy, or traveling. Maybe he is sleeping and must be awakened." Driven to a frenzy of religious desperation, they began to slash themselves with swords and spears, as was their custom. Their blood flowed, but still no fire came. Then, at the time of the evening sacrifice, Elijah stepped forward. He repaired the altar of the Lord, placed the offering on it, and then, in a dramatic act of faith, he had them pour 12 jars of water over the altar until the trench around it was full. The stage set, Elijah spoke a simple prayer. "Answer me, Lord, answer me, so these people will know that you, Lord, are God, and that you are turning their hearts back again." The fire of the Lord fell, consuming not only the sacrifice but the wood, the stones, the dust, and even the water in the trench. When the people saw it, they fell on their faces, crying, "The Lord, He is God. The Lord, He is God." At Elijah's command, they seized the prophets of Baal and slaughtered them all. The news of the massacre and the divine fire spread like wildfire. And when it reached the ears of Jezebel, she was not humbled, she was not afraid. In a powerful testament to her unwavering conviction, she sent a terrifying message to Elijah. "May the gods deal with me, be it ever so severely, if by this time tomorrow I do not make your life like that of one of them." She was declaring war on the very God who had just sent fire from heaven. Her vow was a cold, calculated sacrifice of her own safety for the sake of her God. She had witnessed a miracle that had brought an entire nation to its knees, but her faith in Baal was so unyielding that she refused to bow down. She was a woman of absolute conviction, and she would not surrender. She had chosen her path, and she would walk it to the bitter end. Defying a power she could not understand, and challenging the one man who had exposed her gods as powerless, the years passed. And Jezebel's reign of terror continued until the end came with brutal, prophetic finality. King Ahab was killed, and a bloody coup was orchestrated by a new king, Jehu, who was anointed to destroy the house of Ahab and fulfill God's judgment. This was the moment of divine victory, but the tragedy was yet to come as Jehu approached. The city, Jezebel, now an old woman, knew her fate was sealed, but she would not die a victim. In her final moments, she chose to die a queen. She put on her royal makeup and adorned her hair. She stood at a window overlooking the courtyard, a final, defiant image. As Jehu entered the gate, she looked him in the eye and taunted him. "Is it peace, you Zimri, who murdered your master?" Her words were a final act of rebellion, a final assertion of her identity. At Jehu's command, she was thrown from the window, and her blood splattered on the walls and horses below. She was trampled by the horses as Jehu entered the city. The prophecy of Elijah came true in the most gruesome of ways. After Jehu had eaten, he sent men to bury Jezebel, saying, "Go and bury that cursed woman, for she was a king's daughter." But when they went to fulfill his command, all they found were her skull, her feet, and the palms of her hands. The dogs had devoured the rest of her body, just as Elijah had foretold. The final desecration was a horrific end to a life of immense power and ruthless conviction. Jezebel's story is not just a tale of a wicked queen who got her just desserts. It is a complex narrative of fanaticism, power, and religious war. She was a villain, yes, but she was an unwavering one. A woman who refused to compromise her identity and her faith, even when faced with the overwhelming power of a rival, God. She was a queen who died as she had lived, with defiance. Jezebel's story is one of the most powerful and complex narratives in all of Scripture. It forces us to confront difficult questions about religious zealotry, power, and the uncompromising nature of God's justice. She was a woman who was reviled by the generations that followed her, but in her final moments, she showed the same unyielding conviction as the prophet she opposed. Her life is a cautionary tale, a warning about the consequences of opposing God's will. It is also a reminder that every villain, every symbol of evil has a story, a reason for their actions, and a legacy that continues to challenge us to this day. What do you think of Jezebel? You see her as a simple villain, or as a strong woman with a tragic destiny? Share your perspective in the comments below. And if this journey into the mind of a complex figure moved you, please subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the Bible's most complex characters and stories. Now, if you want to explore another story about a figure who was reviled by his peers, you need to watch the video on your screen right now about Judas Iscariot.